a verge of a virtual Me Too movement.
Again, take the headset off as victim blaming.
But it's like, you have to know that this is not real life. And so after you put your phone down, the spaghetti on the stove.
And there have been reports of people utilizing artificial intelligence to, for example, nude people's photos. Thank you for joining us again for the conclusion of our discussion on virtual sex crimes. You're not going to believe how AI is being used to change your photos that you post on your account. Don't forget to click subscribe and give us a thumbs up so we can get this information out. A lot of these incidences that have been reported report gang rape. Now, there's got to be a way to track if you have, sir, y'all track everything else. You track benign comments and take people's posts down and comments of people, so you're clearly able to do tracking, right? Which means that if you see a group of, listen, if they could track everything else like that, then you have the technology to track whenever you see any group of male avatars, because the people behind the avatars may not necessarily be male. But if you have a constant group of male avatars that are selecting to be in environments with a solo individual female, then, and I know that some people are going to say, oh, but females are less likely to be gamers than men, and maybe that's why the ratios are like that. But if you have this trend, then I think those avatars need to be suspended and those accounts, and you need to track those IP addresses. Now, granted, if they're gamers, they're probably on that level where they can work around that, but at least it creates a level, some layer of protection for your users. And also, it wasn't that long ago, in matter of fact, I think it was last year, where there was a sexual violent crime that occurred on the subways of New York City. I don't know if I need to say allegedly because it was in the newspapers, but I'm gonna say allegedly, where individuals watched and did not help the young lady. I will never forget that, because I think that is so beyond tragic and really speaks to the mindset of where we are. But that being said, one of these incidences happened to a researcher of some of us, and that researcher reported that they were virtually raped by a user who was attending, I guess, a party. And they also the researcher may note that it was observed by others. So not only do we have these incidences that are happening where there is gang rape or individuals being sexually assaulted, but we also have the additional experiences that are mimicking real life, in which other users may potentially observe these incidences from happening and not intervene. So, and that brings a whole other layer of discussion, right? To the vicarious trauma that can occur as a result of that. Just people not being proactive about helping each other. But granted, if it happened in real life, I'm not that surprised that it's happening in the virtual world also. So just layers of areas that we really have to be mindful of, especially when it comes to adolescents, because you work with adolescents and you know how adolescents think. Why is this especially concerning for individuals who are adolescents?
Oh my goodness. One, it's their stage of development, is where they are. When you typically, and obviously because there's, you have chronological age and developmental age, and I don't got to get all into that, but when in adolescence you are focused on you, you have this sort of complex. But I think this type of crime is especially. I'm just thinking, like, it's just so gross. I'm like trying to figure out another way to say it.
No, I was trying to look for other words too, and I was like, I'm just gonna say what it is.
But I think one, because even though our kids they have a level of intelligence that is that's high. They have more access to information than we did at a younger age. They have all of these different things. So one, there is so much access, right? There's access, and it's access all the time. Sometimes I'm just thinking of like the little thing, the thing you say to kids, and it's like, sometimes you can tell them 1,000 times not to touch the stove, but until they realize that it's hot, they don't know. So sometimes they have to experience something then they'll be like, oh yeah, I know this thing. Or there's this, if your friends on top of where are you jumping to? So if everybody's doing it, everybody's doing it. If I
Right.
think it, because perception is reality, even more at that age, or when you're in that adolescent developmental age.
Right.
Also, um, who are they usually marketing things to? Because if I can get you just like with, not to even because I have a thousand examples, but I'm like, when I think about how tobacco companies market specifically to middle and high school students,
Yeah.
like the colors, the flavors, the
Yeah.
grown-ups are sitting in a room trying to see how we can get you hooked as a kid. So
Yes.
when I'm thinking about these electronics and all these other things, they're like, how can I get you hooked to this phone at such and such age? How can I get you wanting the newest this, the newest that, so that you always have this longing for it? And so I think one of the reasons why is because if I can get you hooked at something as a kid, you're a lifelong member of whatever that is. If you started, whatever, and it takes you longer to break that habit.
Right. And they create trends.
Hello. And it's popular, and they have this, like, oh, I can be success. And something I've noticed, especially since the pandemic, there's a lack of this like understanding of how real social interactions happen. There's not a sense of a high level of just like interpersonal skills. So sometimes they don't even have the understanding that there are consequences to actions, that feelings are involved, that they're real people have, there's sometimes there's just no, they're not understanding how to turn it off. There are several apps. I don't know if you're familiar with like the Beagle app. I don't know if you've heard of that one. Oh yeah, it's we call it we call it the other side of the internet. Don't go unless you want to know. But we had one of the kids that I worked with. They were really immersed in it, and it was hard for them to come out of that once the phone was down, because on the app they talk a different way and it's yelling, it's cussing, it's screaming, it's fighting, and that's just how people get their views, they get their whatever the gifts and stuff sent to them. But it's like you have to know that this is not real life. And so after you put your phone down, the spaghetti on the stove, like, and so it was almost scary to watch, to see kids, because they truly they they don't have that switch to be able to remember, or sometimes the switches it takes a little longer. Like, you have the dimmers, it takes a little longer for the light to come on. But something you said though with the switch, with it happening in real life, I made a note, my little sticky note here. I said, are we on the verge of a virtual Me Too movement?
Well, I have actually talked about this in some of my lectures. Yes, I do think it's very possible, and I also think it's very necessary as well. Yeah, and we're seeing some of the same behaviors. We're seeing some of the same challenges, the challenges of one believing women, the challenges of victim blaming. Again, take the headset off as victim blaming, and so we're seeing the same behaviors that we could not correct in real life continue to manifest in these virtual realities. So the virtual reality, unfortunately, doesn't solve anything. And a matter of fact, it probably even magnifies to a certain degree some of the issues that we're experiencing in real life. And the scary thing is, I would say scary, but the alarming thing is that there are researchers and these business tycoons who predict that the experiences like the metaverse, if not the metaverse itself, will in the upcoming years become a significant part of our daily lives. The goal is so that the goal of some of these CEOs, and they have shared it, is so that you don't use your phone anymore. They want to get rid of the phone. And so they're creating these virtual realities so that you do everything in the virtual world. And it's interesting that you said with that example that adolescent had a hard time pulling out of the virtual reality and back into real life. And literally you can share that same experience when you go even just on social media right now, when you literally feel your brain switching from being in this immersive, not really immersive, but being switched out of this virtual world, because
Yeah.
nothing on there is real.
Right. I love
Emotionally.
when people say though, I will see it. I watch a whole bunch of variety of content. And when people say, when a video come up and you're like, you kind of check out the first couple seconds, oh, let me see if I even want to be bothered. And it'll be something that you just like, my life would have been so much better had I not seen that. And people are coming, that's enough internet for today. Like, yeah, I didn't need to see that.
Yeah. And the other concerning part, to your point about that as well, the other concerning thing about it is that we already know, and it's already been exposed, that there are algorithms, the dirty word, right? Algorithms that intentionally try to put certain content in front of you because they're monitoring even down to the duration of your stare at a certain item. So even if you don't click like, they have already determined that you've stared at it, that it somehow causes some type of response in you that it will like to continue to dive into. And so they continue to give you contents like that. Now, if the prediction is right, that for at least half of the population or for billions of people, I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but I can share them in the content of this video. But I remember reading recently that for billions of people in the upcoming years, that their life will be lived in these virtual worlds, which means someone else now is controlling the content in which you see in this world that you live in. Let that sink in.
That's just so odd. But what is the word you use? The alarming thing is that there will be children who will know no other way.
Right. A whole generation. And that means the whole generation whose minds have not been able to freely roam their interests, but whose interest has been curated.
It's so, people give us millennials a hard time, but I'm like, we're the best generation. because we're the last generation to see things pre-internet.
Yes.
The people who were, a part of all of that building and branding and all of the growing of it. And so, but it's so interesting when I'm like, you never like played outside.
Yeah.
Like, ever, certain concepts and what we would consider to be normal. Like, you never just like, it's a summer day, you just found your friends and just went wherever and then ate wherever and whoever's house you ended up at and went home. Yeah. It's those simple things that sometimes, we take for granted, but I think it will be interesting to watch as someone who, as we're, having this conversation where I was like conscious of certain things. It's like, oh, I see what they're doing. I see, what that is. And we may, buy into, we may, may not, depending on what is necessary. But going back to something you said initially in our conversation with the adults, the families, the parents, when I think of, because some things start off super innocent and regular, and then people, what is the word I use? Foolish. People act foolish. Because it's like, with the content creators or these family channels and things like that, things of that nature. And it starts off like, okay, well, let's kind of see, and then it becomes exploitive. So even with the different apps or whatever, it's just like, oh, let's just see if we can just pick a few videos and just see what people to engage, maybe not, maybe get some apps, get some money, get some income, and it's like, oh, okay, and then it's like, oh, well, now we need to be able to exploit what these people are using to help build, and it just, it expands from there. But I think it's interesting to see how the different platforms, even though, a lot of them have joined forces, or like it seems like you can see the different apps to whatever because of whatever they have going on. I think it'll be interesting to see, in the next, I won't even say couple of years, in the next year, how it transitions and how it grows. And for those that are just like, I still feel like it's virtual, it's this, it's that. That's how it starts in a lot of different areas.
Yeah.
I think about what that leads to. I work with a lot of youth who are currently and used to be formerly sexually exploited. And it doesn't always, a lot of times it is, them what people would see with kids walking up and down, what they call the play or what have you. But I have been in a room with a kid and someone has sent an advertisement to them for somebody else for them to get. So it's like whether it could be done via a regular DM. It doesn't even necessarily have to be back page or the other side of Craigslist and all these things, because those things are being utilized, but it could be the simplest thing,
Yeah, it is the simplest thing now, because now they're also using artificial intelligence as much as we're seeing sort of the well, I'll say y'all seeing, because I'm not convinced yet, but as much as people have been seeing the benefit of artificial intelligence, I'm not on that boat quite yet.
Yeah, no, not at all. People are like, you don't use that to write. I'm like, no, I write my own words.
So even though I will admit I have utilized it to explore its capabilities, but I'm not 100% convinced yet that we need to. But
You
that
make
being
great
said,
PowerPoints, though. I tell you that.
yeah, exactly. I will definitely say, there are a dark side to artificial intelligence as well. And there have been reports of people utilizing artificial intelligence to, for example, nudify people's photos for their own pleasures. So nudifying from celebrities to children. And so we have to be very mindful of these tools, not just how they're being used, but we have the regular web, we have the dark web, right? But being aware of, so that we create layers of protection, because unfortunately we do have to create layers of protection, just like you do in real life, right? So in real life,
that was literally what I was getting ready.
Like in real life, we create layers of protection, right? You have certain monitoring. You watch your credit card. You watch your report. The kids, I know, we couldn't play after dark. There's a reason why we had to come in by the time the light goes on in the streets. Those were layers of protection created to protect kids, to protect adults and our well-being. And we just have to, as technology advances, we just have to continue to create these layers of protection. Because unfortunately, we haven't been really good at changing people's behaviors.
Yeah, I think so. We have to utilize a little bit of wisdom and also maybe even consult before even sharing something or posting something. Yesterday, I was on Twitter scrolling. I don't know what I was supposed to be doing, but I was scrolling. And I'm looking and and I'm just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. And I read the tweet or the caption first, and it said, basically, it was sort of like making a joke, like how kids, how they tell you, everybody tells you to have kids until your kids do something like this. And so the kid, it was a picture of a baby under the cabinet in the kitchen, which is already funny because like kids, well, they're always
I'm already laughing
in a pan, right? And so, but they had a box of Lucky Charms, just all the time. Well, the box was probably empty because all the marshmallows and the cereal was all over the floor. And the kid had sat in the cereal and stood up. And so the person took a picture of them, but the baby didn't have, I'm saying baby, but I'm assuming it was under one just based on like what I know about development, height, whatever, because they had to hold on. And so they took a picture of it, and I laughed because it was so much cereal on the floor. And it was just like, how kids get into something, you turn your back for 2.5 seconds and then your kitchen is exploding because little Johnny is doing whatever with the cereal.
Yeah.
And I just kind of clicked at some of the comments. It was just, and if people were saying like, oh, this is like kids will be kids, or that's funny, like wow, like LOL at the marshmallow. And then I noticed an alarming amount of comments saying, look at all of the people who are bookmarking this picture. Want to go back and see this child behind. And so they were encouraging the parent or whoever to like the post down, et cetera, et cetera. Because in something you sharing, and it's because it's funny. It's like,
right.
It's literally a cereal, like
Yes,
it's a kiki, but maybe leave that in the family group chat versus the entire World Wide Web, or talk about it, or keep it on your phone because you never know. Because even if I have the best intentions in trying to keep the kids that I love and work with safe, right? I don't want to put them at risk based upon me just being ignorant to the fact that other people can do whatever they want to do once I have put it out there.
Yep. Yep. And that's how, in the simplified way, that's how memes get created, right? Like something happened, someone recorded it, and then you have a trending meme, and you have no control over that, no control over your image, no control over the use of your voice or even your experiences. And so we've talked about that also. Just a reminder for people who are watching us for the first time or may not have caught those episodes. We had a couple of episodes where we talked about child development, and we talked about the gray area between should parents be posting certain things, because certain things people post because, like you said, it's the joy of watching someone's childhood, right? But then think about being that adult 20 years later, and your little booty is on social media, and it's something you can't erase because the internet is permanent. So even just looking at it from the perspective of the rights of the child and the privacy of the child to have certain level of rights, and the branding families, we talked about all of that. I think it was Dr. Tris and myself that also talked about that, the branding of kids and without their permission and where we're going. So there are lots of nuance to this new world we live in, that is the transition period, as Kendra mentioned, between authentic relationships and now this virtual reality. So I like the question. I'm going to pose the question to everyone watching. Are the millennials the last generation of authentic interactions and relationships? Let us know what you think in the comments below. We love our millennials. So let us know what you think. Are they the last generation? They may be.
You know
So
my
that
vote.
I think you guys are. That's my opinion, but I'm not going to sway you guys. But as always, listen, Kendra always comes ready to share and to lay down some facts with us. So Kendra, thank you so much for sharing and really discussing this topic and giving us a perspective about the adolescence experience, which is a unique experience, as you shared, for those reasons. So thank you for joining us once again. For those who want to learn more about adolescents, how adolescents think, and whatever else you want to share, including your fabulous hair, how can they reach you? How can they follow you?
You can reach me at Pooh Smiles, Pooh like Winnie the Pooh, Smiles like my I am Pooh Smiles on all platforms. For those that use Facebook, it's Kendra Pooh Sims. And yeah, I'm an author. You can type in Kendra Sims on Amazon, it pops right up.
Thank you for reminding me about that. Yes, she is. Make sure you check that out. And fun fact, Winnie the Pooh is my favorite childhood character growing up. So I have my favorite mug, which is a Winnie the Pooh mug.
Don't you just feel warm just telling me that story?
It's
Don't you
like
just feel good?
it's like you can't go wrong with Winnie the Pooh. So I
No.
love that. I love that's the basis of your handle. So I love that. I love that. And I am, as always, Dr. T, the hand behind the handle of Healthy Bump Club right here on YouTube, and also the hand behind the handle of Healthy Bump .club on Instagram. We thank you guys for joining us, for watching this episode. Let us know what you think, because these areas are nuanced. There is no precedent for these experiences. So we're all in this together. So share with us what you think about these types of incidences and what you think we need to do. And once you are done there, definitely go check out the other episodes where we talked about the child development and social media, and we talked about the branding and the rights of kids. We talked about it all, you guys. We try to cover as much as we can. So make sure you check out those other videos. I'm going to try to post one right up here. So make sure you check it out. And that being said, make sure you come back to join us for another fabulous episode. We see you guys when next episode. Yeah.